Yeah, I'll start my story with how I became a civil servant. I was some 8th standard. I think when you look at it, when you keep reading about it, you'll know that when I was in 8th standard, I wanted to join the Rashtriya Military College. There's a national exam which happens, and then you go around and give it. So I remember I started preparing for it when I was in 7th standard. So there's a tendency you read a lot of general knowledge books. I think there was this book called Success Review, CSR, and then there was also a local company called Suras, and also we would buy those books and read. And I used to be a very good quizzer. I think when I was in 6th standard or so, I even won an Young World quiz in my school, college, the locality and all. So I always used to believe that I'm a very good quizzer and I would crack any exam and all. And I always used to be a topper in the school also. So then the rude shock comes. So I went to this exam. So I think it's only one person who was selected for that entire exam from Tamil Nadu then. So then I failed for the first time. I think it gives you a rude shock. So I remember my dad told me, okay, you can always serve your country, not just through military, or else you can also do civil services. So 8th standard, I grew up, there used to be this series on TV called Paramveer Chakra. Every Sunday it will come. So I would probably see that. Then I also would think of getting on Veer Chakra or Paramveer Chakra or Ashok Chakra someday. Okay, so in fact I have a friend who is also a Paramveer Chakra. I think he is from UP. So this was my inspiration. So it was a rude shock that I no more look at military and all. So I should look at a career which is at 8th standard. I'm talking about somewhere in 8th standard. Okay, so then there was this guy, 83 batch IAS officer. He is still in touch with me, or I'm still in touch with him. He used to be my collector in the place where I'm living. I live in the outskirts of Chennai called Korattur. And then this guy, there was this hutment incident which had happened. A couple of huts there got burnt. And the district collector actually lives very far from Chennai. If that Kanchipuram and Tirulur, the district collectors would be 40-50 kilometers away. And only 5-6 huts got burnt, and this guy came all the way from that place to give bags of rice and some relief material. So that was very inspirational. In fact, imagine that's the first time I'm actually seeing a collector on action. And when I saw this person, his name is Dr. Varaprasad Rao. He's still he's an MLA now in Gudur. And this guy came from all the way from Kanchipuram, and he was able to give relief material, and it was so inspirational. Imagine this one. That is where when I started believing you also need people like him for this country, right? To do these things which he did. So I remember I took a photo with him, and from then on, this incident happened when I was 8th standard. So imagine this is 8th standard. So. And then on I kept it in mind, I'll one day become a collector. And when you have this ambition in your life, when you want to see something, this is something which I always talk about. When you 8th standard and when I become collector, it's 12 years, 13 years from now, then. So imagine how strong you have to be, right? So I also studied in a very good college. So when you're in a good college, you're also tempted by what your peers are doing. So I studied from Venkateshwara College, so your peers would probably go to the USA. I had a classmate who went to Stanford and also MIT. So you're also tempted that there is this temptation. We have those internet bubble batch, or the batch which grew up with the internet. Okay, so we could have easily gone to, there were a lot of temptations in fact. But I remember my dad, when I got my counseling, that was one of the first counselings which happened in Tamil Nadu. He told me, engineering is a backup. You just have to concentrate on the IAS thing. I'm talking about IAS. I never put IPS or service there, but I never put IPS or a foreign service or anything. So yeah, so only IAS. Okay, I'm still proud why I'm still an IAS officer, right? So I'll explain that bit. Then, so you give the exam. So imagine 8th standard. So you have 4 years of schooling, and then you have 4 years of your college. So already 8 years have gone, so you're still holding on to your dream. And then you give your first attempt, so you have to go to Delhi for preparation, which I did. So you're already in the 9th year. See, this is the most important point, that's the biggest In fact, I remember when I passed out, I had nothing to do in my life. I neither had a job, neither had an admission to go abroad. And this is where your soul searching happens. You have to, there will be a lot of pressure on you that there are your classmates who are earning money, and there are your classmates who are abroad, and there will be a lot of self-doubt whether you can actually make it, because it's, if you look at the exam itself, it's about 3-4 lakh people who give exam. I think now the count is 11-12 lakhs. My time it was 3-4 lakh people. And then you have this big, in fact you go through this enormous, I think I can even call it traumatic experience, right? You would question yourself, did you do the right thing or not? Because 1 year, this is unheard, right? 1 year you're doing nothing, you're just preparing books which you studied before. There are subjects which you have never studied. I did study sociology and psychology, right? So there are subjects which I never studied. And these are like, if you look at the volume of education, sir is also there, the volume of education which you go through, it is as good as you are combined some 6-7 years of your entire life's education into 1 year, and you have to do that. That's exactly how an IAS preparation looks like. Everything, like when they tell you, simply they will tell you 8th standard to 12th standard books you have to read at one go. So then you need to find that strength. I think that's the most important part. In fact, I also believe very strongly when the preparation, what you go through, the process what you go through is actually smaller than what you actually go through in later part of life when you become a civil servant. You are mostly you are in line of fire. You are pitted against people, pitted against, sometimes you will also be looking whether there is a cause for which you are standing. You are the only person standing on ground thinking you are doing the right thing. And the entire world around you thinks otherwise, that why did this fellow commit this kind of did take this kind of a stand, right? So you always think that, did you ever come across? So I believe this formative years, maybe this 8 years or this 1 year in particular, was very strong. So in fact, I cleared my exam on the 4th attempt. So which means you can imagine, now you can do the calculation of the 13 years which I spoke about. Every single time when you give this exam, you start from scratch, you go all the way. In fact, I went all the way to interview. So, and then you fail again. Then again you start the entire process again. Imagine every single year you have to do the same books up and again. And this is not just me, right? There are lakhs of people who have done it. The question is, it's not just you. I think when he called me and told me I had to tell a sad story, right? That's the only sad story I can think of. Otherwise, I had things which I simply walked through. And then I have a good story also. In fact, there were only 4 interviews in my life I have given. The first interview I gave for a job, I got a job. I was already in engineering service. That's the bit. When I gave my first exam, my first interview for UPSC, IAS, I already had a government job. So that pressure is taken off. So my first interview in life, I cleared. My second interview, I didn't clear. Third interview, I didn't clear. Fourth interview, I cleared IAS. So which means that I have done only 4 interviews in my entire life, so out of which I have 50-50 ratio. I think that's the good ratio if you look at the things which I tried. So what the story is, there will be your parents, there will be your friends, there will be somebody always around you. There will be someone who is always motivating you time and again, do this, do that. They can push you or take you to a different level. In fact, there is a video where you see a small girl pushing her father into a skate, and then you see herself pushing from herself back and you slide. I think it became viral in the Instagram. That is exactly what you guys will be doing when you are up in your challenge. Sometimes your own parents would look like, imagine if you have gone through an exam 4 times, you are not cleared, and then you suddenly have to clear the exam at the 4th time. In fact, I lost all my interviews because of the scores which I had my interview. Because when you look at the exam, the way the exam is made, that interview plays a very, very crucial role. So when I cleared my exam, I had actually topped the interview. So in the sense, one of the toppers of the entire, that particular exam. So you would think, and in fact, that there's also lessons from my own understanding, right? So what you have to do is, you will be making mistakes. You would need mentors. You are actually raw. And if you start believing this is what I am, and I will not change, that's where the downfall will start. Again, you have to pick your right mentors. That's also important. In fact, I'll tell you 2 stories with this, okay? When you're giving UPSC exam, there are certain rules to the game. There's a strategy, there is a rule. So when I was preparing for the exam, I was preparing means when I was in my college, I would probably read economics and psychology. That's the option which I thought mentally I will clear. But when I went to Delhi, they told me, say economics, it's a tight subject, and there's also logic behind it. If 100 people are giving economics, only one will get selected out of it. If 20,000 people are giving sociology, 200 people have a chance. It's a simple proportional game. So you have a better chance if you do sociology. So I had to make my first choice. Day one, I made my choice that I had to change my option. So you have a rules, it's like a chessboard, right? So it's not that I will play my own game and win the game. You have to play the game. The other way, the rules of the game are very clear. There will be some rules. You like it or not, world has put some rules for what you are. And if you still think that you will get through, you will get through. I still get through. But you have to, these rules will not be broken. So what the first lesson is, I was amenable to change. And I strongly believe change is the only constant we have. When I say it, change is the only constant which each one of you. When I talk here on the stage, I used to have stage fright when I was in fact, when I was in IAS also, I used to have stage fright. But do I look like one who has a stage fright now? No. So these are things nature has given you something. Then you mold yourself to become the nurture. I think when he talked about, we call it arakal, like the small one which you fit in when you build a building. Right? So what you do is, there are times you have to fit in and just get things. So when they ask me, when we do a lot of things, right, I hear this, it's been my 19th year in government, or I completed 19 years in government, I'm in my 20th year. So when I first joined government, they still tell me, you're a young boy, you think things, you'll get things way. And I still hear the same thing now. I think probably, so that's exactly what you do. But you have to have that strong determination. I have very strong determination. I know that I'm a guy who thought at 8th standard I'll become an IAS officer and became one, right? Imagine I wouldn't have said this in 2004 or 5, but I can openly tell you that I became one what I wanted to become. So that's exactly what you guys should have. You should have that. See, you come and tell me that you can't do anything and all, right? I'll first think of this. First thing I'll think is, I am the guy who did think of becoming an IAS officer and cleared it, right? So I just would, but it is not an easy game. I'm talking about this. There were, in fact, when I was preparing also, I had this temptation to go to US and all, because you have a very good college degree, so you can always fly and go and do. In fact, that's one thing which I always had. But remember, every single day when I go back home, I sleep peacefully. The reason being, this is the only job where you learn every single day. One day you are an agriculture secretary, one day you are a health secretary, one day you are an IT secretary. You go, so you see my profile. So recently I was working on cancer care and all, right? So I remember when I do bit of cancer care also, there are hundreds of people who will benefit, or thousands of people who will benefit. So we are also working on preventive care. So this is I'm also making a pitch for the service. I think a lot of youngsters who think that making money, getting a good house, in fact, there are people who would be earning double my salary someday. But that kind of satisfaction of serving people, I think I still believe that I didn't make a mistake that I didn't make it to military and all. I still, the part of this country, working for this country and building this country. Every single one of you, you don't have to be a civil servant to build this country. But you have an opportunity to build this country. This particular event, he is doing it. This is also nation building. We have to, open up, talk to people, share experiences. Our society is never built on sharing experiences. If you see it, we are a society which keeps, if I have a book, nice book, I will keep it to myself and I will not show my classmate or teach him something because we think he is a competitor. And then if I teach him something, he will get better marks than me. That's how we've been groomed, right? We never share things as a part of us. You go think over how many times did you share something which you know that made the other friend better. But I strongly believe unless you share things, you'll never grow. And by sharing things, you'll actually grow together and you'll grow better also. I think this is the last comment I wanted to make. Thank you all for this opportunity.